apple pie. Equally easy, also kind of intimidating, but if you follow the steps, you get the crust down right, it's gonna be fine.
We on a mission when we in the kitchen, we whipping the dough, yeah. Rose blowing the batter like it never mattered, we been here before, yeah. And it's never basic whenever we make under the influence of intoxicated. Pushing the mug, whipping the pot, cook with a buzz, give it a shot. Toss me a Heineken, using the key and hooking the top. The liquor entice, all of the rice, you cooking a pot, yeah. And this the life, if you ever in the mood for maybe a few drinks and some bomb-ass food. We making bomb-ass food. Just one shot won't do. Not tonight, cause if I'm not hungover, then you know it isn't right.
Okay, so the first start of the pie is obviously to make the pie crust. So in here we got about 360 grams of all-purpose flour. We're gonna put that in this pot here. Then we're gonna do a big old tablespoon of salt, throw that in. And I have 2 tablespoons, maybe 3 tablespoons of sugar. Just throw that all in there. Now we need to get butter out of our freezer, okay? We need about 2 sticks of butter. The colder the butter, the better this is gonna be. You want everything to stay nice and cold because butter is very temperature sensitive, obviously. It'll melt and it just won't turn out all right. Cut this out into cubes. They'll slice right easily because it's frozen. There we go. We're gonna throw that right into our dry ingredients, as well as the second stick. There we go. Throw that all in there. Now you could do this with a food processor. It would actually make your life a lot easier. You want to work the butter into the flour, and you want to work the butter pieces up until they're about like pea-shaped sizes. When you have flaky pie crust, that's because you have bigger chunks of butter in your dough. When you have smaller pieces of butter, almost like pureed in there, then you have mealy, which makes it a little more tougher. Flaky obviously is better because it flakes off and it's delicious. Alrighty, so we're at the point now where the butter is pretty worked. You definitely want it to be, not too small, because then again, you're going into that mealy territory. You want to stay in the flaky area. So piece-shaped, about yay big. You're gonna want to mix that all in, make sure it's all incorporated with all the dry stuff. Now, when you reach this point, you can do one of 2 things. You need to get water that is ice cold. You need everything to be extremely cold. And you're gonna want to pour just about enough to get it where it's like wet sand, right? Just a little bit at a time, keep working it. So I would say about 5 to 6 tablespoons of water should get you there. You can also add vodka, like really cold vodka, because people say it's less wet. It feels pretty wet to me. But they say it's less wet and then it ends up getting cooked out in the cooking process anyway. I've never used vodka. Just seems like a waste of good liquor. Now we're at the point where it's starting to come together. You can mold it like it's clay or sand, just like that. It'll fall apart. It still is gonna look dry. That's okay. You're gonna see why. Okay, now that we have it all together, we're gonna dump this out on our plastic wrap. If you have a pastry mat, even better. I don't have one yet, but I will get one eventually. And we're just gonna work it, almost like you're kneading dough. We're just gonna work it, let it come together, make sure all that butter is in there. We lost some on the floor, that's okay. It's all about relaxing. Cooking's supposed to be fun. Okay, now that we have it together, I like to bring in the plastic wrap like so. Just get it working. Okay. Get that going, that going. And then we're gonna wrap this up into a little disc, because you want to squish this down. The flatter its surface is, the better it's going to cool in the fridge. Now you got a good ass pie crust. You got little knobs of butter in there. That's all gonna melt. That's all gonna melt, and that's all gonna turn into flaky, delicious heart attack goodness. And that's what we want in our pie, because remember, it's pie. It ain't supposed to be healthy. You know what I mean? Ain't gonna lose weight eating this, but who cares? It's pie, it's an indulgence. It's a once in a while thing. So we're gonna place this in the fridge, no less than a half an hour. This needs to chill, this needs to relax. And you're gonna see that all the dryness of the dough, the flour, it's not gonna look like that. It's gonna be real hydrated after a half an hour. Now we're gonna move on to the next step where we're gonna make pie filling. Alrighty, so now we're gonna make pie filling. And it's pretty easy. Apples, that's the base. Now you can use a variety of apples to make pie filling. You can use Granny Smith, which are my favorite. You can also use Honey Crisp. You can also use any, not so blatantly red apple. Don't use the red delicious, because first of all, that apple's disgusting. Second of all, it will turn into mush. It's not made to stand for baking. Baking apples, again, you want to stick with the lighter colored ones. Like I like the Granny Smith ones, they're my favorite. So I'm going to show you a pretty quick method of to core, peel, and get this prepped for a pie filling. So obviously we're going to start off by peeling an apple. Pretty easy. Now, we're going to take our apple and we're going to cut from the core, right? So we're going to go down 1, down 2, down 3, and down 4, right? There's always a little extra. Get rid of this. Now we're going to do this small dice, right? It doesn't have to be super pretty, super fancy. It's going in a pie, right? So 1, 2, 3, right? Line that up. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. That's all we need. Small dice. Normally you're supposed to squeeze a little bit of lemon juice on here. I didn't buy any lemons. I totally forgot. What that's going to do is going to bring a little bit of extra acidity to the apple pie, which is going to help contrast the extra sweetness, because this is all sugar, this is all butter. First thing we're going to do is we're going to coat these apples in a little bit of sugar. I'd say probably about 1/4 cup. It's a lot of sugar, but remember, it's a pie. You've already made a bad decision by eating it. Shake these up, get that all coated. We're going to get a large skillet. Skillet. Put that on medium. Butter. Have a stick works for me. We're gonna let that melt. We're not gonna get it to the brown butter stage. We're gonna get it somewhere beyond the initial stage, right before browning. Again, this is gonna seem like a lot of butter, but it's American. It's American as apple pie. As Americans, we love to put butter in everything. Even though this is probably a descendant of the pastries from, what is it, Amsterdam, like the Dutch, the Danishes. I'm obviously not going to put that in there. There's that cool shit, like I think I know what I'm talking about. Once our butter is just about melted, we're going to throw our apples in there. Beautiful. Now we're just going to get this going until most of the liquid from the apples comes out. You want to do this on medium-high. All right, so the apples have released a good amount of liquid now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some cinnamon to the pot. All right, get that going. I'd say probably 2 tablespoons. It's probably a little bit more, but I don't mind because I like it. And we're going to add some freshly grated nutmeg. There we go. Make yourself a microplane. These things are awesome. Now the nutmeg is nice. It's going to add a little bit of spice, and it, you know, tastes like fall. Now we got our spices in, we're gonna mix it around. Oh, you can smell that, right, Barrett? It smells like fall. You can see the color change immediately into that thing we know and love, which is apple pie filling. Now at this point, a lot of liquid has come through. We're gonna keep cooking this down, reduce this down almost until caramel before we go ahead and put this in our pie crust. But we still got a long way to go. Now something that I like to do that a lot of people don't do, and I think is a mistake, is I'll add a little pinch of salt. You got a lot of sweetness in here. You need something to offset that. See, it's already starting to turn into that caramel we're talking about. See that? All right, now that we're at this point, we're gonna add a full tablespoon of cornstarch. Cornstarch is necessary because it helps bind everything together. It helps make it a solid. That way when you get this, you know, when you open up a pie, it's not just water. There's a lot of liquid in this. You need something to bring all that liquid together. Don't worry about the clumps, it'll all get absorbed. That's pretty solid apple pie filling. Don't worry about that, it's okay. Something can get lost.
Another one.
Okay, so now that we're at this point, I'm gonna shut this off because she's good to go. We don't want to cook it any further than that. We're gonna put this back in our bowl here. We need to let this cool down so it does not melt the pastry. You need this almost at room temp. It doesn't have to go all the way to room temp, but it needs to be pretty close. Okay, so the next step of this is we're gonna add my own personal touch, is I like to add streusel. Streusel is that kind of stuff that you find in coffee cake. It's like that crunchy stuff. Right, it's pretty much cinnamon and brown sugar. We're gonna make that for you today. We're gonna start off with 241 grams of all-purpose flour. We're also gonna add to this, we're gonna add 168 grams of brown sugar. 168, then we're gonna add a very unique sugar. This is called piano sugar, also known as raw cane sugar. This is gonna add, we're gonna put about 71 grams of that in here. The difference between this sugar and regular granulated, the clusters are a little bit bigger. It has a little better taste to it, I think. Okay, now to that, we're gonna add some cinnamon. Where are you? About a tablespoon by eyeball. Again, I like cinnamon, so I really don't care how much goes in there. And we're gonna do baking powder. This is very important. Now, it's kind of weird because this is usually a raising agent, but this actually helps stabilize it. So just like a 1/4 tablespoon, maybe. Now we gotta add melted butter. I would do stick and a half. We got our half stick from previous, and where is my other butter? Thank you. And then we got 1/2 stick here. We're gonna throw this in the microwave for a little bit. All right, so we melted our butter. There we go. We're gonna put that right into our dry ingredients, and we're gonna mix. Now this is going to get pretty stiff pretty quick. It's actually pretty surprising. It turns out it feels like you're stirring cement after a while. But mix all that butter, all that stuff together. And you're like, oh my God, this is getting so dry. Keep going, don't worry, it'll turn. This is kind of like my signature thing that I bring to like my cousins' Thanksgivings, because they're all Italians and none of them eat apple pie. They never really tried it because they're like, oh, it's American dessert, we'd rather have tiramisu. And they try this and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I know, it's good. Try something. That's the consistency we're looking for. And this is good, man. You can eat this just like this. It's delicious. All right, so now we got all the key ingredients ready. We got our streusel. We got our apple pie filling. Now we're gonna get the apple pie from the fridge. Now what we gotta do now is we gotta have a floured workplace because this stuff gets really sticky really quick. And any type of countertop that's even a little bit moist, it will screw you. And I've lost a lot of pie crust from being kind of dumb and not paying attention. So you wanna get a nice, even, lightly floured workspace, right? Excuse me. And then get our pie out. As you can see, no longer dry. Came together. You need to let it sit in the fridge. That way it rehydrates everything. Keep that there if we need it. Get my roller out. We're gonna wanna we're gonna wanna flour our rolling pin as well. You don't want any stickiness coming from this. Okay. Start from the middle. Beat her down. You're gonna get cracks. That's totally fine. This pie crust is pretty forgiving. Just any crack you see, beat into submission. Start from the middle, roll up, roll down. You gotta have this pastry continuously moving. Get these cracks, get them sealed up. Now you can pretty much roll this out to whatever thickness you want. If it gets too thick, it takes longer to cook. If it gets too thin, then it's like eating on a cracker. It's stupid. Now the best way to judge the size that you want is grab your pie pan. Put it over. That looks pretty adequate to me. I mean, you gotta account for shrinkage and stuff like that, but flour her down, take one edge, roll it up. This makes life so much easier. There we go. Take this here, and then roll it back over. Look at that. Come on. It doesn't get easier than that. People say pies are intimidating. Look at this. I'm hungover as hell and I'm able to do this. Now what you don't want to do is, a lot of people make this mistake, is that they'll just push their pie crust in. You're gonna ruin it. This is gonna shrink, it'll all fall apart. You wanna pick it up and set it in. Pick her up, set her in, like that. See that? Doesn't that make more sense to you? Look at that. Look at that. Now, What you want to do next? You want to trim this boy. Now curve her up like this, right on the lid. This is going to help with the shrinkage. Now you want to do a little cutesy pattern. It's really simple. Pinch it. Do that. See that? Simple pattern. It looks fancy. You can even take the scraps or even the second pie dough and make like lattice, but who cares? You know? You're gonna go see your family or your best friend. You're not gonna go see the Pope. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna take a breather and just clean myself up. Look like I'm Tony Montana, just did a whole bowl of cocaine. Now, the pie dough is ready. We're gonna put our apple pie filling there. Even it out. Let me get a spoon in the bowl. There we go. Now that we have that, complete the ensemble here. We are gonna take our strudel. This is what's really gonna throw this pie into the stratosphere. You know what I mean? This is pure love. Dutch apple pie. Look at that. We're gonna throw all that on there. Now remember, this is like that coffee cake taste, so it really turns this into something different. The flavors work so good. Cover it all. And when you do it like this, you don't have to worry about venting the pie, you know? Because normally when you have a straight pie crust cover, you have to put vents so the damn thing don't explode. This ain't gonna explode. Now we're gonna take this, we're just gonna gently kind of like push it in, make sure it's nice and even. What you're gonna take is you're gonna take 2 eggs. Right over here. It's 1, throw that in the sink. 2. Now people tell you to add milk, they tell you to add whatever, just add a little bit of water. That's it. You know? If you add cream to your eggs and then you do your egg wash like that, the only thing you're gonna do is you're gonna burn it. That's more sugar, that's more like Maillard reaction that you don't need happening. You know, because this is gonna go in the oven at 350 for about an hour, about 50 minutes, 55 minutes. That's gonna do a lot to the pastry. You don't wanna add a bunch of stuff on here that's just gonna turn it black. You know, this was like 2 hours of work. Why do you wanna throw it away? Now, funny enough, this is where things tend to go wrong for people. They're at the final stop, right? You're there, you're at the bus stop. They get a little too rough with the pastry when they egg wash it, and it gets dented, it gets screwed up. You're adding moisture to it, so it's going to change it in a way. But just blot it, you know. Just be gentle. You don't have to like, you know, like what are you accomplishing? Just pop, pop, pop. And to be honest, this is like a part that's not even really necessary. You just do it for color. If you really want to do something special too, take some of that granulated sugar. Sprinkle the edges. The little things. A little extra kiss. Makes everything go better. Alrighty, that's the pie. We're gonna bake this at 375 for an hour. It's gonna be a long bake. There it is. There it is. So she's been in there for about 55 minutes. You're gonna be really tempted. You're gonna wanna cut into this right away, but that's stupid. Baking changes everything, right? And it's not ready when it's hot. You have to let it chill. You have to let the butter settle. You have to let the inside settle as well. Else you're gonna cut into it, it's gonna be like a big gushy mess. Nobody likes that. You spend all this time, let it chill. You got time. At least 24 hours if you really want it to be good. All right, and there it is. There's my American Dutch apple pie. Once this chills out, we're gonna cut a slice, show you what it looks like in the middle, all right? It's breaking, it's okay. There it is. Nice apple pie. Oh, crust there.
Cause if I'm not hungover, then you know it isn't right.